who are starting college, you have the requirements you need to get into your major, the major prerequisites. You have the major requirements. So what, Carol, what you did, right? You fulfilled a lot of your undergrad, lower division requirements for psychology. And then you also have the university requirements. Those are commonly known as like general education requirements, right? But you can also have upper division writing requirements for your major. Andrea, I think we actually looked at this last year. Do you remember this screen here, the general education worksheet?
That general education sheet is actually super, super important. It's like the holy grail when it comes to picking some of your classes. Like that sheet is what like a lot of like advisors and everything will use to make sure that you're staying on track,
Okay.
because it tells you like every single one, like it gives you all of the class options and you can just go and look and like you search them up. Like for example, I think it's like one of the requirements is an A3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you like all of the classes that fit that, and you just have to like look them up and then find whichever one works for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically just sets you up. Like all you have to do is look at the classes, look, see which one you like, and plug it in.
Okay.
And like at least for first year, your first semester, you get a lot of help at orientation. I think that's how it worked for me. I went to orientation and they basically help you pick all of your class right then and there, because it's like when it's the most competitive because everybody's trying to take the same GEs as you. So it's definitely really, really helpful to get help from an advisor, as well as like continuing on. Like last semester I needed an advisor. This semester I don't think you're ever not going to need to speak to an advisor, just to make sure you're on the right track. And going on with like talking about like prerequisites, as far as like this is true for like I would say any major, is your APs actually definitely really help. But I took two APs. I took AP Spanish and AP English, or I took two AP Englishes. I'm not sure which one counted for what. And then I took a class at community college at CSM like my junior year. And those actually helped to fulfill a lot of my GEs. I know I had like, I think I was talking to my advisor the other day when I was taking classes for this upcoming semester. And she told me that I had like basically fulfilled all of my lower division GEs like by the end of this next semester, like thanks to my like APs and everything. And that's like what helps you keep you on track as well. Like that GE requirement sheet is like really, really helpful. What I did, which I think was kind of a mistake my first semester, was I went for classes that looked like they already like whatever I studied in high school like was easiest for me, or I just kind of looked. I didn't do that much research. I was just like worrying about making like a right schedule, and just like making a schedule mostly focused on like times that worked for me more than anything. And I would say don't do that. Like this is your chance for you to like really take classes that interest you. You don't want to take classes just because they seem easy. Also definitely do your research like into the professor and everything, because I took a class that said like environmental science or whatever, and I didn't see that it was like intro into arguments of environmental science. It was literally like a 2-hour lecture every other day, just like about arguments and arguments and arguments, and really nothing to do with environmental science. So it was that. And then I took like a witchcraft class. It was also just like random lecture that I wasn't interested in. And being interested in your classes really can like make or break anything, because obviously you're going to be a lot more motivated to go to a lecture that is something that like a topic that you're really interested in, besides like like I have to go and sit and do this homework for a class that I like couldn't care less about. So I would say as much as you want like the ideal schedule, definitely like if it's going to help you be motivated to pick a class and something that you're actually interested in, like focus more on that, because at the end of the day, like you're not going to end up doing the work if you're not interested in it. Like that's just going to tank you. And that's kind of what happened to me first semester.
You're going to be moving on to the major and the requirements. And like you said, you have a minor that you're also going to have to balance out. And I guess looking at the core requirements, Carol, that's what you're going to be transitioning to, right? Because you've already done the foundation work. So I just wanted to show everybody real quickly what you were able to do.
So my first year, I was presented with this. I think even in AVID, I was looking at this. I was very confused, but as I got in to know my counselors from Promise, I was able to really adjust and understand what I had to do. Basically, we have this um, website, I think it's called WebSmart, and that's where your counselor keeps track of all the classes you've done so far. That's in the I Get C sheet, which is the first one there on the slide. And so you have to complete all of the minimum units in order for you to get your AA. And then at the bottom is more psychology based, which is my major. And so I had to pick in that list of what I wanted to do, and I just picked, similar to what Andrea said, like I picked the one that interested me the most.
Mm.
I definitely had to get through some general education ones, which is fine because a community college, honestly, is trying to really learn and grasp the idea, because you know it's gonna come back at the end once you will be doing higher division courses
Mhm.
once you transfer. So making sure that you are actually understanding the material is super important, and not just and you shouldn't take this class as like something to complete right away. Just making sure you get the most out of the class,
Mhm.
because it definitely helps and could shape the way you will do further in other classes. So I took like intro to psych, and I was very interested in that class, and that's what made me really take that major and wanting to expand on it more, wanting me to major in cog sci. And so that's where like my STEM interest builds in. Like I did a lot of STEM heavy classes at
Mm.
Kenyatta,
Mhm.
and I think that prepared me as well to get into my double major. I didn't have to do calculus, but I did calculus because I knew it was going to help me once I go to UCLA, because
Mhm.
they're super competitive there. And so I really did the most, honestly, and I don't regret it, because I feel so much more confident than I
Mhm.
would have if I just like taken the basics, like just stats and that's it.
Mm.
And so I knew I had to go that route, and by picking my classes, um, I was lucky enough to be in the Promise program. So if you're able to join the Promise program, they pay for everything. I didn't have to pay one penny for any
Wow.
textbook, any courses, and so that has been a tremendous help for me. And the counselors are amazing. They've helped me really shape my courses and my whole schedule. They're willing to really be very open with you and say what you have to do to take this certain course at this time, while you have like to do you have these meetings at this time. Like they're super accommodating. I love them so much.
Mm.
And they really also helped me a lot with my college apps. So definitely take advantage of Promise, because they're there to help you, and they give you every month a $50 incentive. So whether that could be towards gas, I used it towards gas, and it's also you could get Uber, $50, and then like free lunch that's worth $50 every month. So that's a really good way to save money and really just take advantage of all the resources. I also went to Assist a lot, assist.org,
Okay.
because during my journey at Kenyatta, like I was like second guessing, oh, maybe I want to be like an engineer or like major in something else. And like I had to look through the courses that I would need to take
Mhm.
in order to transfer to other schools. And so that's very helpful and can give you some perspective of the classes that you should take in order if you're really set on a certain school. So like I was set on UCLA, and I like kept on looking at that like the whole entire 2 years, and so that it really helped me a lot. And picking classes, honestly, it's not that hard as long as you're early. I would always wake up at 7 a.m. and like get it done, because that's the time that it would open, right at 7 a.m. And they give you a certain date. It depends. So if you're qualified for EOPS, that means you get priority registration, which is basically you get to register before anyone else, which is great. I didn't have EOPS, so I had to wait a little few more days after the EOPS requirement date was. So, but it didn't really affect the classes that I got or anything, because I waked up super early and I got them. And just making sure you have a schedule already in mind, and definitely do your research on your professors. I used ratemyprofessor.com, and honestly, like I used to really like go towards that website, but also like making sure you recognize like how skewed it's, either like really good reviews or like really bad reviews. And so take that into consideration. Make sure to ask around, and don't be afraid to ask questions to any resources on campus, and just or even your classmates, like, oh, who's the best teacher to take calculus or biology, like which one do you recommend? Those questions could be goal to you, trust me, because there are some professors that are super super nitpicky on certain things, and if I would have taken that professor, my GPA would have gone down and looked bad, and the rest, I don't know, it would have been bad basically. So definitely do your research and be a planner, because that's the key to being successful in college, in my opinion.
No, I would 100% agree with what she just said about like asking around and really planning ahead. Like I would say like if you can, like obviously with orientation you're getting help like your freshman year, but when it comes to like picking your classes more on your own, it's essential that you like plan ahead, and especially looking at your classes. If you think like you're going to do not so well in one, like plan on how you can take that next step. And then researching the professors in the class itself and asking around is really really important, because like for example this semester I was going to pick a class, I think it was like financing or something like that. And my advisor actually went ahead and told me, she was like, the class at Chico has a super high like fail rate, like take this class at Butte, which is the
Whoa.
community college in Chico. So yeah, so that's something that you also really want to take into consideration. If there's a class that you can maybe like get ahead, like I'm going to take that class over the summer instead. So if there's something like, sometimes you can find little loopholes like that where you're going to have more time to focus on a class that's already tough. And then also if you know that where you're taking it is going to be like especially difficult, there's no shame in taking it at community college, or like finding different ways to get around it. And like that goes for, I mean obviously online was kind of forcing us too, but they offer online or in person, and one version works better than the other for you, then you just want to keep that in mind, especially when you're going into picking
I
classes.
want to add on to
Yeah.
that too, because that's a school as well. Like other or general ed classes that make it like harder on top of like our major classes. So a lot of they recommend taking like your general ed class college, just because they're not less demand, as like our professors are difficult. Their gradings are much more difficult for a class that you can take a community for cheaper, and you'll have like a much better time taking it there as well.